Naomi Holbrook, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here and a very warm welcome to Thrive Solo. Now, before we get into our conversation properly, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course. And firstly, thank you so much for having me on as a guest. So I'm Naomi
Welcome.
Holbrook. I'm also known as the Unconventional Weight Loss Coach, and I help women to heal their relationship with food, their body, and themselves. I'm 50 years young, single, and child free.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for the intro. Now, before we get into all things single and child free, I want to talk a bit about your work. First of all, like obviously you've mentioned you're a weight loss coach. First of all, tell us about your own story and how you ended up in this field.
Yeah. So I'll give you the brief version because
That's
it's a
okay.
big story, lots of chapters, but um, looking back from a really, really young age, my relationship with food wasn't healthy. And I go back to even like 8, 9 years old. So food became a friend, a comfort. I really struggled at school, haven't been formally diagnosed, but fairly likely that I am neurospicy, so neurodivergent, and struggled at school with learning, with academic, went to a very, very highly competitive all girls convent school that was all about academic or sport or music. And I didn't fit into one of those boxes. I also had chronic health illnesses, sort of growing up, whooping cough that then led into 30 years of asthma, respiratory problems. So I was constantly off school with illness, with, all those different things, scoliosis, chronic back pain. And it had a huge impact on my schooling to the point that actually my school experience was pretty traumatic. So I started using food at an early age to, I guess, I didn't realize back then, but to soothe myself, to feel better. I grew up in a household where my mum was a home baker. There was always like homemade cheese scones, flapjacks, wonderful, wonderful things. And I also grew up in a household watching my mum be on diets. And I guess going to a very competitive all girls school, poor body image, felt so self-conscious, didn't feel, didn't feel at ease with who I was. And I started my first ever diet at 14.
Right.
I bought a tub of Slim Fast from a chemist, hid it in the back of my wardrobe, used to mix it in my bedroom, skip meals, pretend that I'd eaten with friends, all sorts of things. And then, very traumatically, my mum became chronically ill when I was 12 and subsequently, 7 years later, passed away.
Oh my gosh.
What then happened was my relationship with food just went to the next level. So, from two different aspects, I restricted from a point of view of controlling. It was the only thing I had control over at that time, to overeating and binging because I was so sad. And it was the only way that I knew how to feed emotions. And then that transpired later on in life to alcohol. Not an alcoholic, but, the terminology now, gray area drinker. I used alcohol throughout my 20s and 30s to, feel good, but also sometimes to numb how I was feeling. I had a very successful 21-year corporate career, which I was probably more surprised than anybody that I even had a career, bearing in mind I left school with virtually no qualifications because I couldn't pass any exams. But I had a 21-year corporate career in national sales and operations, in hospitality and sales. And then at 39, I was my unhealthiest. So 18 stone, pre-diabetic, horrific mental health, that I was hiding and masking. On the outside, I looked successful, had the corporate career, independent, bought my own properties, all those different things. But inside, I was an absolute mess. And so at 39, literally 3 days after my 39th birthday, I was like, I do not want to get to 40 and be single and be unhappy and be overweight and all these different things. So I started my own journey at 39 of taking control of my health. Just over a year, I lost 5 stone, not through surgery, not through weight loss injections, but through healthy lifestyle changes. And that then took me on a whole new journey of getting to grips with my mental health, because I realized that actually the 5 stone that I lost It didn't change anxiety, depression, or anything else that was going on inside. It was a physical transformation. And at 41, unbeknown to me, I was already in the depths of my, perimenopause journey. And I was having such bad anxiety and imposter syndrome in my career that I thought I was going to get found out and fired. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll jump before I get pushed. So I resigned with no plan B and walked out of my corporate career, did a lot of soul searching. And when I was kind of having that moment, so I was 41 and I was having that moment of, God, what do I want to do for like the next 20 years that I feel lit up every day, not like I'm just going through the motions. And through my own weight loss journey, it just made me feel like I want to help other women. So that's when I retrained, became a certified nutrition and weight management coach. That journey has evolved so much for me over the last few years. I wasn't always the unconventional weight loss coach. That has come about, and we'll kind of, I guess, go onto that in a minute, but that has come about through my journey, realizing that I was chasing this, perfect kind of like the figure, the size, all those different things. But even when I did get there, I wasn't happy. So my journey over the last 6 years really has been, a journey with myself of self-discovery, unlearning behaviors, beliefs, things that I've come up against from childhood, from adolescence, all those different things. And now over the last few years, I have helped hundreds of women to, like I say, heal their relationship with food, their body, themselves. But the impact that has had on the rest of their lives has been absolutely transformative, just like it has been on mine.
Wow, what a story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, it's really fascinating to hear. And I'm so glad to be having this conversation because actually weight loss and just weight and this topic in general isn't something I don't think I've ever talked about it with anyone on the podcast before. So I'm really pleased to be having this conversation because no doubt there will be listeners out there going, oh my God, I am resonating with this woman so hard. So thank you for sharing this. Now, as you mentioned, you call yourself the unconventional weight loss coach. Now, obviously, weight loss can be a really loaded topic. I think, we have to be super sensitive, don't we? I mean, I'm sure you know this better than anyone. But talking about your approach and how you came up with that name, what makes your approach to weight loss different? Tell me all about that.
Yeah. And do you know what? Your word there, loaded, is absolutely right. It's a trigger warning. It's a difficult conversation to have. And part of that trigger warning keeps so many women in a place of shame and guilt and embarrassment and feelings of failure. And that's the cycle that I was in for the best part of 30 years, that I'd go to like the, Weight Watchers groups, Slimming World groups, but I hide the book so that if my friends came around, they didn't see I was on a diet. They didn't, it was like eye rolls, Naomi's on another diet. And so what I have learned during my own personal journey, but with all the women that I've worked with, is diets per se don't work. I have women, come on calls with me and they say, oh, I did Slimming World, it worked. I did Cambridge diet, it worked. I'm like, why are we on this call then? So it worked for a period of time. Because it's, there's rules, there's regulations, there's calorie counting, macros, workouts, meal plans, whatever it might be. So how the unconventional came apart was that everything that I do, how I teach, is science-backed, compassion-led, and shame-free. And the reason for that is because weight loss is a science. People think it's just calories in, calories out. And to a certain degree, of course, if we consume more calories than we burn, we will gain weight. But for women in midlife, in any phase of menopause, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, but also if they've had years of dieting and, that kind of yo-yo dieting, from disordered eating to overeating to restricting, there are so many underlying currents. It's not just about calories in and calories out. If it was, we wouldn't have the huge, weight loss problem. The weight loss injections wouldn't have gone absolutely, how they have done right now. So my book that I published called Your Weight is Not the Problem is because the weight is the symptom. So what I do as an unconventional weight loss coach is no macro counting, no calorie counting, no workouts, no restrictive meal plans, nothing like that at all. What I help women to do is reprogram their neural pathways. So reprogram the beliefs that they've had for years, reprogram their relationship with food. So many women, I had a call last night and a woman said, you know, I use food for every emotion. I eat when I'm happy. I eat when I'm sad. I eat when I'm stressed. And look, for most women in midlife, life is stressful. We're dealing with fluctuating hormones, probably the sandwich generation. So even if we don't have children, the likelihood is that maybe we are parenting for parents now, going through dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever it might be. We're growing businesses, or we're breadwinners in corporate careers. We have got so much to juggle. And so what I do through my SMART methodology is help women with a holistic approach. The weight loss actually is just the side effect.
Right.
I help them with their hormones, their metabolic health, stress management, confidence, all those other elements. And the weight loss becomes a byproduct rather than the thing that they are going for.
So interesting. Just picking up on what you said there about stress management, can you talk a little bit about why and how stress massively affects weight gain and, you know, difficulty in getting weight off? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, the main hormone that, you know, with stress is cortisol.
Yeah.
And the majority of us are living in a high cortisol state. And if you look at, you know, even like our daily activities, wake up, look at the phone, straight on the emails, whether you're commuting, whether you're working from home, we're straight on, like our brain is already being stimulated in a way that it was never designed to do.
Yeah.
And so the majority of women, certainly that I come across, are living in this place of survival. They're literally surviving from minute to minute to minute. It's like, you know, the list that they've got to do, the emails that they've got to respond to, the washing that's got to go on, the this that's got to be done, the deadlines, all these different things. And they're in this fight and flight. And our brain is very, very clever and was designed that obviously if we, you know, if we were in periods of danger, and we're talking about like, you know, life-threatening conditions, the cortisol would kick in, the adrenaline, and that's when obviously we, you know, run out of a house that's on fire, or, you know, run to save somebody that's about to get knocked over by a car. Our brain wasn't designed to be switched on like that 24/7, and it pretty much is. And one thing I'm always really clear about saying is we can't live a stress-free life. You know, some people can go off grid and, you know, whatever and do that, but it's not about even reducing the stress. It's about managing the levels of stress that we have. And I always talk about like these kind of micro moments. It's not about spa days, not about, you know, going away for a weekend or anything like that. It's about where each day can we just create moments where we just reduce the cortisol, because what happens is that hormone cortisol literally keeps the body in a place of survival. And when we're in survival, it's in protection mode. And that's when fat just cannot effectively burn. Yeah. The body is just in this place of like just surviving, just kind of fighting. And I've seen it with women, you know, inside the programs that I have, is that, you know, they come to me, they say they're doing everything right. They're doing this, and this. And then when we just make these small tweaks within the formula, the weight starts releasing. They're not eating less. They're not moving. They're not exercising. They're not doing workouts necessarily, but they're starting to work with their body rather than against it. Modern day life is us fighting against our body and our brain all the time.
Yeah, totally.
And it's why it's so important to understand how you can actually reprogram your brain to work, you know, with and for you.
Let's talk a bit more about that. How do we reprogram those neural pathways? It's something I've talked about a lot on the podcast, because through my own journey of kind of personal growth and development and everything that I've learned and kind of put into practice, I've realized over the last 5 years how it all comes down to reprogramming your beliefs. Well,
Yeah.
so much of it does. It's so incredibly important. But it is, I think part of the problem is it is work. And
Yeah.
not everybody wants to do the work. It feels too overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, this is too much. So how would you suggest that people start tackling this problem that we all have?
Yeah. And also, I think something that's really important to say is that our brain does reprogram during puberty, during menopause. So the actual science of our brain does change. And it's why so many women then, especially in the season of menopause, will find that the things that they used to do don't work, like willpower, motivation, discipline, no longer work. So reprogramming the neural pathways, it is multifaceted. So,
Yeah.
you know, I would be lying if I said, read this book or, you know, go away and do X. You said they're about beliefs. And I think that there are absolutely some core things. One is your belief system of what do you believe about yourself? So for 30 years, I believed that I was an emotional eater. I believed that I did have depression. I believed that I was a chronic pain sufferer. I gave myself all these labels. Other people also gave them to me, but they then become part of our identity. So a lot of what I do is also identity work. And it's, you know, as well from the journey that you've been on, people are really scared because I was for years. Oh my gosh, what if I uncover the lid and I don't like what's underneath? What if I open Pandora's box? It's not as scary, you know, identity work, belief work is not as scary as it sounds. It's not easy, but it is simple. And how I, you know, how I sort of work it within my formula is really simple. So I do it in various different ways. That some of it is the language that we use. So instead of saying things like, I should eat better, I want to eat better. I am the woman who does eat better. And doing that alone doesn't work. And I said this morning on something I was on, I was like, you know, manifestation and vision boards, great, but they don't work on their own. You've got to, like you say, do the work, do the background, implement the things. You don't just, you know, create the life of your dreams by putting a picture up on a wall and looking at it every day. So subliminal messaging can help, mantras can help. From the point of view of how I work, because I am a certified nutrition coach, what we put in our bodies is what comes out in our brains. And obviously we know now that there is so much research and evidence that gut health, brain health are hugely connected. Dementia, Alzheimer's. And so when you nourish yourself, and that isn't just food, that is when you nourish yourself in a holistic way, your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, then actually with the other elements, it's a shift. It changes. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I'm not a dieter anymore. That didn't happen for me. It's been a progression. I always talk to my clients about the dance, because people get so frustrated when they take a step back, or, you know, the old terminology that some people still use is like, I fell off the wagon, or I was off the plan. I'm like, there is no wagon, there is no plan. If we reprogram our brain to constantly, even when we feel like we moved backwards, that was just a lesson, that was a learning. It's about moving forwards again. The self-sabotage and everything comes because of the stories that we're telling ourselves, the beliefs, the maybe things that people have told us over the years, that you're not good enough, or, and they've maybe not even told us. Sometimes it's in people's actions that we've then interpreted it that we're not good enough, and therefore we're not worthy of having the life that we want. The physical health, the mental health, the business, the relationship, that whatever it might be, it's the stories that we've told ourselves. And, you know, what I'm all about is rewriting the story.
I love that. I just want to go back to what you were saying about how what you are putting into your body is affecting the way that you think and how you feel and all of that. In terms of what we should actually, well, I don't want to use the should word now, but how do we go about, like, if you're someone who knows that they don't have a very good diet but wants to get better in that regard, how can people start simple, and what should people prioritize in terms of what they should actually be consuming food wise and drink wise?
I love that question. And because again, it's been so overcomplicated. And it's why so many people will never start, because they're overwhelmed. There's so much information out there. And the first thing I will say is, don't give up anything. The minute we go into that, I can't have this, I shouldn't have that, oh, I've got to give up my wine, my crisps, my cake, all those different things, that little inner child rebels. And it's why so many people will then go into that whole self-sabotage. So the first thing I'd say is, don't give up anything. Don't restrict anything. Put in. So if it is that right now you literally drink 1 glass of water a day, or you drink 6 cups of coffee, replace one of those cups of coffee with a glass of water. I mean, I recommend electrolytes for lots of other reasons, but just start to bring in more of what's going to make you feel better. And I don't talk about good and bad, because there isn't good and bad. It's all about balance. But the first thing I'd say is hydration. The majority of women that come to me, their poor brains and bodies are literally fueled on caffeine or alcohol. And most people are seriously dehydrated. And that is like, your brain is like a shriveled prune if you're not giving it the right hydration. So the first thing I'd say is, like, start to increase fluids, preferably water, electrolytes, rather than sort of tea, coffee. The next thing is, like, where can you get some simple wins in? One of the biggest ones is protein. Women are not eating enough protein. And if you look at the predominant modern day diet, it's carbohydrate heavy. It's ultra processed food heavy. It's excess fat, and not healthy fats, but processed fats. There's not enough protein, and the protein is the building blocks of our body. So, get an extra portion of protein somewhere. Just, look at how you can get that in. Fruit and vegetables, fiber. So many people, so many women are, deficient in fiber. So where can you get, like, can you just add a handful of blueberries into something? Not remove things, just add things in. And then what starts to happen is, as you add that goodness in, you start to feel better. Energy levels improve. Maybe if you're in menopause, your hormones feel a bit more calmer and a bit more settled. And actually your taste buds start to change. I was addicted. I didn't realize it, but I was addicted to ultra processed food. So I had a sugar addiction. I had a food addiction. Same with, not alcohol to the point of alcoholism, but I craved that taste. And now I don't restrict anything in my day-to-day, but I don't want any of that food anymore, because my body craves what I give it most of the time. It's like the right fuel is in there now. So all it wants is that, there's times I have cake still, I have a glass of wine, I have a cocktail, I have chips sometimes, but I don't want them very often, because my body doesn't want that fuel anymore.
Yeah. I love that you say that. Well, first of all, I love your idea of adding stuff in rather than saying you can't have that, you can't have that. It's such a brilliant way of approaching it, adding stuff in, because immediately you don't feel like, oh God, this is going to be a nightmare because I've got to give up this or this. I'd love to hear a bit more about the electrolytes thing, but we'll come back to that. But I love what you said about protein. I have become completely obsessed with getting loads and loads and loads of protein into my diet, because I have listened to so many people talking about this. I've done so much research into this, that protein is now my priority every day. I've even started using protein powder every morning. And actually, partly for me, it's because I'm well into menopause now, but I had the whole kind of menopause weight gain. My God, I put on so much weight over the last few years, and it was actually really starting to get me down. And then in the last year or so-ish, maybe a bit more, I've just been like, do you know what? Fuck this. I don't feel good like this. No judgment on anyone who isn't bothered about it. I am bothered about it. I don't feel like myself. I want to feel good in my body again. That doesn't mean I want to have the body. I mean, I would love to have the body I had when I was 25, because I didn't realize how bloody amazing it was when I was 25. I didn't appreciate it at all. But what I want is to have the best body I can for the age of 49, nearly 50. And I've learned that protein and, things like strength training is so, so, so important. And I learned that I have osteopenia.
Yeah.
I went into early menopause, and when I found out I had osteopenia, I was a bit like, oh my God. But I know that you can reverse it. So I'm on this mission to really, really up the amount of protein in my diet. So now that is my number one thing when I'm thinking about what am I going to have. And actually, I'm one of these people who I tend to eat the same things over and over and over and over again. But anyway, so I love what you said about protein, but also what I really love is how you talk about the fact, because this is so, so, so true. The more crap you eat, the more crap you want to eat.
Yeah.
The more good stuff you eat, the more good stuff you want to eat. It's so, so, so true. So like you say, if you start adding in the handful of blueberries, the bit of spinach, more water, you want more of those things. And so I absolutely love that. Now, before we move on to talking about the whole sort of single child free thing, can you just tell us a little bit about your SMART method?
Yes.
What I know that's what's it called? Is it an acronym?
Acronym.
It is
Acronym.
acronym or an acronym. Have I just made up a word?
Acronym.
What the hell's an acronym?
An acronym.
An acronym.
You've just put them together.
Oh my God.
Just created your own word.
Tell us about the SMART method.
Of course. So it is an acronym, and it stands for sleep, mindful nutrition, activity, rest and recovery, and time for self. And this formula is super simple. It's not rocket. I always say it's not rocket science, but it is science. And it has been created from my 30-year journey of healing from disordered eating, quitting yo-yo dieting. I've reversed every medical condition that I have or had. 30 years of depression, anxiety, panic attacks. I have a chronic back condition. I actually had surgery in my 30s. I have zero pain. I'm on zero medication. This SMART formula has helped every woman that's ever worked with me come off of antidepressants.
Wow.
Reverse high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, everything. So the formula, like I said, this isn't about meal plans, diets, calorie counting, any of that. It's about when you get those 5 elements, and I know some women will be listening to this and going, oh my God, I don't have time to put those things into my day. You do, because everything that I do fits around every single woman's lifestyle. I have some women that work with me who are homeschooling 4 children and running 2 businesses. Some women that work with me who are retired. Some women who work part-time and do different things. The whole point of this formula method is that it is fluid and flexible to everyone's lifestyle. No rigid rules, regulations, or anything like that. But like I said, all of it is working on helping hormones in midlife, in menopause, to feel calmer, to, and there is no such thing as sort of balanced hormones, because our hormones are fluctuating, and they will do, but it is about working with the hormones in the body rather than against. And also optimal health and well-being. Like I said, the weight loss really is the side effect in the programs that I do and the method that I have. When your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being are in a healthy, happy, balanced place, everything else just falls into place.
Yeah. So there's sleep is the first one.
Yes.
I've talked a bit about, I did a mini-sode on sleep ages ago. Again, it was something that I've learned about over the last few years and how incredibly important it is. And I think we do not realize how, if we're getting, oh, well, I get 5 or 6 hours, not enough. And I'm talking to myself here as well, because it's something I struggle with. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I find it really hard to go to bed early enough. Yeah. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it's something that I am super conscious of. Why is it so incredibly important for us to get enough sleep? And this does pertain to weight loss as well, and that whole kind of
100%. And it's why it's the first part of the SMART formula.
Right.
I kind of almost, it wasn't because of the acronym. It was like, sleep has to be the priority. Because again, I get so many women that come to me and I'm eating this right, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And how much sleep are you getting? Well, it's really disruptive. I don't usually get into bed till midnight. Right. That is sleep is the foundational pillar to everything. Everything. Your performance in your business, your relationships, your performance in your career, everything. It all comes down to sleep. I was a massive insomniac, like you, used to get up super early, but could never go to bed early. Sleep now for me is like the medicine.
Really?
And obviously in midlife, in perimenopause, menopause, it's quite often something that gets really disrupted for women. Also, we're on our devices. Our brain is overstimulated with dopamine, scrolling TikTok on Netflix, whatever it might be at night. So sleep is absolutely key, again, to have our dopamine kind of sort of calm down, to not be in this high state of adrenaline. And so when our sleep is on point, and it isn't about getting 8 hours solid, you know, it can, for some women, it can be going from 4 hours sleep broken or 7 hours broken to getting 6 hours of good restful sleep. It isn't like you haven't got to be in bed by 9 o'clock and up at 7. It's about making small improvements. But when we sleep, our body, first of all, it's the time of, you know, when our body is actually doing the most work. It's actually renewing overnight, it's replenishing, it's regenerating. It's also when our brain is getting the most health, and it's now being, you know, very heavily researched that reduced sleep potentially will also be contributing to dementia and Alzheimer's later in life. And they're actually saying that one of the best things that you can do is kind of nap. And look, not all of us have time to nap during the day, but if you don't have time to nap, then absolutely your sleep at night is pivotal. And it is sometimes just small tweaks. I help women to create bedtime routines that work for their lifestyle. Not like you've got to be in bed by 9, 10 and set your alarm for here. Just where can we make some improvements? It has such a massive effect.
2 quick questions on this. How much sleep do you recommend people get as a minimum? And I know you're saying that obviously in some cases we're trying to get somebody from 7 crappy hours to 4 or 5 good hours. But as a general rule, how much do you recommend? And what is your top tip for getting better sleep for those people who struggle with it?
Yeah. So the first thing is kind of the rule of thumb, the science behind it is 7 to 9 hours. I would be saying aiming for 7 hours minimum is a great place to start if you're like only getting 5 hours, 5.5. Start with 7. Top tip, don't charge your phone next to your bed.
Right.
It's the biggest culprit that I hear from women, like scrolling in bed or getting into bed, charging the phone, and then waking up in the night and going to look at the phone to see what time it is. And then all of a sudden they're scrolling. So that's a really simple thing. I charge my phone in the corner of my bedroom. It's on my dressing table. It doesn't come to my bedside table. Even that small shift has an impact.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you know what? Before, I just want to ask you one more thing that I meant to ask you just now, just very briefly, going back to the hydration and water.
Yes.
Why do you recommend electrolytes? Why do you recommend adding electrolytes to water? Because this is something that I've been thinking about myself. I keep hearing about it. Why is this important? And how can we do that in a really easy, simple way?
So electrolytes will replace the lost salts and the lost minerals that are naturally lost throughout each day. So just by perspiration. And this isn't about, you know, I think again, a lot of people think, oh, you know, protein, electrolytes, that's for gym bunnies. That's for people, you know, oh my God, I'm going to get bulked and big. No, it's not. It's essential for your body and your brain. So electrolytes will help to replenish the minerals and salts that your body naturally releases and loses throughout the day. Water will just really kind of go through, whereas electrolytes, your body is actually using the minerals and the salts that it has in there. The electrolytes that I use also have protein in them.
What do you use? May I ask?
Yeah, of course. And I'm an affiliate with them. So, you know, just to kind of put that out there, the brand is Reflex Nutrition. They're based here in Brighton, which is one of the reasons I love, but also the way that they, you know, their supplementation and everything that they do, it is all science-backed, sports and nutrition led. But I've been using their electrolytes for years. I've seen a huge impact for me, brain fog reduction,
Really?
you know, better clarity, my working day. And when I introduce, you know, women onto them, they're just like, oh my God, they're a game changer. And they are.
Can I ask? So I think people are so used to me seeing me with this pink water bottle, which I drink out of all the time. So if I was going to start taking electrolytes, this is a litre, right? So will I just need like 1 dose of electrolytes a day. Is
Yeah,
that like,
you can do it in different ways. So for instance, usually I have a 2 litre water bottle, but I broke mine last night. I dropped it on the floor and it smashed.
oh
So,
no.
so I've moved on to my little one until my other one arrives in the post. My replacement arrives in the post tomorrow. But what I usually do is put a scoop of electrolytes into my water bottle first thing in the morning. And I have now for me, this has just become a non-negotiable. I used to get up in the morning, coffee machine, straight, having a lovely espresso. And I love coffee. But
Same.
now my non-negotiable is hydrate before caffeinate.
Right.
So I start my day with electrolytes, and then I'll have my cup of coffee a little bit later in the morning. So you could put a scoop in your bottle, mix it together, drink it, and then you could put another scoop in later on when you have your next bottle. I really encourage people, even if they are like drinking no water at all at the moment, start with 2 litres. And this is where so many people, especially women, go wrong. Like, oh my God, I've got to drink 3 litres a day. Oh, I've got to have like 3 portions of protein a day. I've got to have this. I've got to do this. Start small.
Yeah.
Don't
Just start.
just start.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
start.
Exactly.
But like I said, these also have protein in. So actually that really, really helps with getting enough protein in throughout the day. But also, protein obviously is the macronutrient that leaves you feeling the fullest because because of the energy that's in it. And so therefore, if you have protein in your electrolytes as well, it actually helps to reduce, your sort of snacking and your want and desire for maybe just grabbing and grazing on food throughout the day.
Great. Thanks, Naomi. Can we put your affiliate link
Yes,
in the show notes?
absolutely.
Awesome. We'll do
Absolutely.
that. We'll do
No
that because
problem at all.
I, for one, want it.
You'll be ordering them.
No, definitely. Right. So, as you said at the beginning, you are single and child-free, and you and I connected over on Instagram because you told me that you sort of resonated with a lot of what I talk about. Speak to me about this. I like how you've come to be single and not have kids, how you feel about it, where you're at. I'd love to hear all about it.
So, single since 2016, so 9 years. And if you told me that I was going to get to 50, be single, be child free, I would have first of all said to you, oh God, how sad, like tragic, like what was the purpose of your life? Because of society's conditioning and programming, and also familial, my parents, obviously my mum passed away, but my parents had a marriage that, I looked up to, and obviously 2 children and all those different things. My friends in my 30s were all settling down, getting married, having children. The pressure on me was huge, and a lot of shame and judgment around the fact that I wasn't in a long-term relationship, that I wasn't, settling down and having children. Mid-30s, I split up with my long-term boyfriend. It wasn't something I thought was going to happen or saw was going to happen, but it happened. And then I literally went into 6 years of serial dating after that split in my mid-30s. And honestly, I think a lot of that was I was trying to fill a void. I was searching for the one because I thought the one was going to complete me and the one was going to make me happy. And like I say, a lot of pressure, not so much from my family, but a lot of pressure from friends of like going back to the ex-boyfriend or setting up on dates and things because they were just so desperate for me to be married with a child, all these different things. I didn't grow up going, I'm not going to have children, but I think it was an unconscious decision. And I realized only when I went to therapy in 2019 for the trauma of losing my mum and not healing from that. It was only then that something clicked for me. And I was like, yeah, going through the loss and the grief and the trauma as a child of losing my mum had so many underlying layers for me that I realized that I didn't want to bring a child into the world.
Right.
That the trauma and the loss that I felt to put that onto another human being at whatever stage of life,
right,
just it just didn't sit with me. It just didn't feel right. But I felt so under pressure and so shamed and judged throughout my 30s and early 40s that I never told anybody like how I felt. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I know, maybe I'll meet somebody or maybe it'll happen. And then really, like I said, 2016, I realized that dating was doing my mental health no good at all.
Right.
I was on all the apps, all the sites, going on, multiple dates a week, multiple dates at the weekend. Every time there was a ghosting or whatever it might be, or a message not responded to, I told myself that I was worthless, that it was me that wasn't good enough, that, it was all a reflection on me. And what I decided to do was take ownership of that and say, let's just quit the dating, work on what's going on here, and then just kind of review it. And I never thought that 9 years later I would still be like single. Well, I say still be. I never thought, I thought I'd probably take a break from it and come back to it. But the honest truth is, and I know obviously, I resonated with you with your article, and I said to you, the comments that you got, is that as the journey has evolved, my life has become richer. I have become the one.
Yeah.
I am whole. I'm not looking for an other half anymore because I am the whole piece. And what I say is that my life is so full and so purpose driven that if somebody comes along and, they are a person that aligns with my life, my values, all those different things, then I would consider it. I'm not like, I'm single and I'm, this staunch feminist and I don't need a man. I don't need a man. But what I'm saying is, if I do choose to go into a relationship again in the future, it will first of all be a very different relationship to everyone that I've ever had before. And I will be a very, very different woman and partner going into it.
I absolutely love what you just said. I want to just pick up on, you said, because your life is so full and purpose driven. This is something that I feel so strongly about. I think that the reason why so many women are feeling so crap about being single is because they don't feel driven by something else. So they think that the relationship or the baby or both is going to solve the emptiness they feel or whatever.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I am on this fucking mission to help women realize that it's not about that. Actually, whether or not you end up in a relationship, what we need as humans, not just single women, but as humans, we need to feel like we have direction. If we are just going to a 9-to-5 job that we're like, meh, about, which, let's face it, a lot of people are. That was me for fucking years, right? And everyone who listens to this knows that. If we are just living our life, getting up in the morning, going to a job we don't really give a shit about, coming home, maybe going to the pub with a friend a couple of nights a week, and then coming home and watching Netflix and rinse and repeat, rinse. If that is all that we've got going on in our lives, maybe we have hobbies, whatever, maybe we, I don't know, go away for the weekend to stay with friends, whatever. But I feel like we need something more than that in order to find what we're all looking for, which is that wholeness inside of ourselves. So when you said, because my life is full and purpose driven, I just thought that right there is why you are in such a good place, and why the same applies to me. And I hate saying this in a way, because I know that some people will be rolling their eyes or feel a bit triggered, or it might, maybe I sound like I'm coming across as smug or something like that. It's not that. I just want women to realize that it's not about the relationship. What they should be searching for is the thing that lights them up, the thing that drives them. And it doesn't mean you have to know what your purpose is. And some people I know will be going, but I don't know. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what lights me up. I don't know what drives me. I don't know what my direction is. I would say you've got to find it. You've got to start making efforts to find it. What are your thoughts on this, Naomi? Sorry, I just had a bit of a rant.
No, do you know what? I'm literally...
Can you tell I feel so passionately about it?
I feel my body like kind of in matching your energy, because
yeah.
I feel the same so passionately. And like you say, I know, there will be people rolling. And I'm going to come back to something that you just said there about being triggered. And this is something that this has changed my life. I spent decades running from every single one of my triggers. So when friends triggered me because of talking to me about settling down, having children, all these different things, I'd either distance myself from them, block them, tell them I was busy, whatever. Something I tell my clients is let your triggers be your teachers. And it has changed my life. I face all the triggers that come up in my life because they're a part of me that needs healing. They're a part of me that I've not yet moved towards. So if anybody is triggered listening to this, I would say to them, lean into it. What is it that's triggering you? And I think that's the first sort of thing to say. And yes, everything that you just said there, I completely and utterly resonate with wholeheartedly. That my corporate career became, and don't get me wrong, there were parts of it that I loved, but then it was just same shit, different day. Even when I changed companies, same shit, just a different name above the door. And my purpose was coming home and opening a bottle of wine and ordering a takeaway. And Friday nights, going out with the girls, cocktails on a Saturday. I was chasing the dopamine everywhere, like the food, the alcohol, the weekends away, the holidays.
This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do.
That's what we're told that success is.
Yeah. We think we're going to find what we're looking for in the, like you say, the holiday, the car. But what is so interesting, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just had to say this, and then I want you to carry on. But I used to live for the 2-week holiday. I used to live for it. You know what now? I genuinely don't need it. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it, but I don't feel like I have to book the holiday. I remember during COVID, everyone was going crazy because they couldn't go away. And yes, of course, that's understandable. But I remember feeling like, do you know what? I actually feel so just content in myself and my life. I don't feel this major desperation to go on holiday. And I realized that's exactly what I used to do with going on a holiday. Or for me, it was quite often buying clothes that I couldn't afford. Anyway, do carry on. But this is just something I get so fired up about.
And I'm going to come back to what you just said there because it's really funny. A business associate messaged me yesterday and we had a little bit of a chat on DMs and she was like, oh yeah, I can't wait. I've got my holidays coming up. I'm going away. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. She went, and I hope you've got something booked too. Or I hope you're getting away too. And I sent her back a message and I said, do you know what? Staying at home with a calm, regulated nervous system is my idea of heaven right now. I don't have a summer holiday booked. I don't want to go away on a summer holiday. And so the reason I say that is if you'd told me years ago that I wouldn't be like living for the next holiday, the next upgrade of my car, the next girls' weekend, all those different things.
Yeah.
I was escaping the life that I'd created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas now I've created the life that doesn't require escaping from.
Exactly that. You have created a life that you don't need to escape from. God, I just feel so passionately about this. Naomi, what can people do? What can the women listening do if they're like, I don't feel like that. I am the one that's chasing the holiday or chasing the girls' weekend away or chasing the next thing or the bottle of wine or living for this or living for that. Where can people start? Because I think it always comes down to, well, you don't understand because I can't afford to do blah, 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 blah. It always comes down to that. And I always push back on that and say, well, guess what? Hello, that was me and still is to a greater or lesser extent.
Yes.
So what would you say about that?
Yeah, and I would absolutely mirror what you just said there. I walked out of my corporate career 9 years ago, 2 mortgages on my own, no plan B, and I made it work. And I'm not saying that, some people go, oh yeah, but it's easy for you because you didn't have children. It's easy for you because you didn't have this. It's not easy for any of us.
Yeah. It's
different. And that's what I'm always, it's different. We all have different sort of situations and circumstances. The first thing I'd say, how much do you want it?
Right. Exactly that.
Because we all say We want the lifestyle, we want the relationship, we want the career, we want the business, we want the healthy body, we want all this. But how much do you really want it? And like you said, like I didn't know my purpose a few years ago. I'd kind of like walked out of the corporate career and then was like, crikey, I need to find this. And I took jobs, delivering parcels for a courier company, walking dogs, pet sitting, doing things that years before I would have gone were like, are beneath me. Like,
Yeah. Well,
I had a successful corporate career. I don't go and deliver parcels for a courier company.
totally. It's exactly the same as when I became a barista in a coffee shop and started cleaning my sister's house, because that is how badly I didn't want to feel like I was completely living a life that just wasn't, just didn't feel good.
Yes.
I was like, fuck this. And actually, that is when I started to feel way better than I ever had. Ironically, when I was working as a barista in a coffee shop and cleaning my sister's house. And actually, when I used to clean my sister's house for however many hours a week, I would be listening to inspirational podcasts and learning all of these things. So I love that you say that, because I totally relate.
Yeah.
Do carry on.
I love the synergy and the fact that we have such sort of similar but different paths.
Yeah.
And you just said something there like about listening to podcasts, but I would actually go up a notch with that. And I would say to anybody that's listening to this and kind of going like, what is my purpose? And I'm stuck in that rut. And look, if you think about how our brain is wired, it's wired for certainty, security. It's why so many people will stay in a job until they retire that they absolutely bloody hate. They'll stay in relationships that they have zero fulfillment out of. They'll do all these things because the brain is in a place of, at least I know what this looks like. What I would say is the people you surround yourself with are just so life-changing. And there's that saying, isn't there? I can't remember whether it's Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins. The 5 people that you surround yourself with is who you become.
Yeah.
And this is not said out of a place of, I'm better than them or derogatory or anything at all. But over the last 6 years, I have upgraded. I still spend time with people that I grew up with, that friends that I grew up with, that people that I've met in my career. However, I have also started to spend more time with people that inspire me. And it's not always in the physical sense, people in my area, it's people online.
Yeah.
I've met people in Norway, Canada, America, Australia that we're on Zoom, we're in coaching programs together. The more time I spend, even in that wavelength and energy of people who are also living their purpose, it wants me to be better. It wants me to leave a bigger legacy, to be more driven, to do all those different things. So I would say to you, and it's not, I think this is where some people get really fearful.
Yeah. And triggered.
If I change what happens in my relationship, if I change what happens in my career. And what I would say is, so many women come to me and they say to me, Naomi, I think I need to leave my marriage. I hate my job. I'm X stone overweight. I'm unhappy. I'm unhealthy. I'm drinking too much alcohol. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Now, I'm not a relationship coach. And I park the, you want to leave your relationship. I just say, let's just focus on you. And what's absolutely incredible is that women that come to me and say, I think I need to leave my marriage. I think I need to leave my job. I think this. We start working in the way that I do. And before I know it, their marriage is better than it's ever been. They're getting career opportunities that they've never had and that they feel confident to go for. And the fear so often is totally different to the reality. But surrounding yourself with people, and that doesn't, like I say, have to be physically. So if it is that you're, I'm going to use an objection here that I know that somebody's thinking in their mind right now. Oh, well, of course, easy for you. You're a coach. You're in self-development. You're surrounding yourself with these people. I work in an environment where everybody's negative. My husband's negative. That's fine. There's a saying from Tony Robbins, be the lighthouse, not the tugboat. And that's what I say with my clients. Don't drag anyone along just start to bloom, start to blossom. The purpose and the mission and the fulfillment, it will be so clear. But when you are going through the motions, Groundhog Day, telling yourself that it's shit and it's never going to get better and you can't do anything about it, the minute you tell yourself you can't do anything about it, you can't. You're stuck. You've told yourself there's no hope, and you get to a place of learned helplessness.
That was me for years.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh
Telling
my God.
myself I can't do anything. If I had a partner, they'd support me. If I was on maternity leave, I wouldn't have to work. Oh, it all went through my head. But it was just my own bullshit excuses for I wasn't willing to take the personal responsibility and accountability to create the life that I said I wanted.
Oh my gosh, you make so much sense. And particularly, you know, I think sometimes we blame it on, well, if only I was in a relationship. If I just had the relationship, you know, then I wouldn't be worrying about this. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, I love what you say about personal responsibility. And this is something I often talk about, or I have talked about, victimhood. And I've said many times, I sat in victimhood for fucking decades. Oh, poor me. It's not fair. I can't do this. No, no, no. And it's just, no, 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 I'm sorry. But it's incredibly difficult to get out of that when you're so far stuck in it. But when you say that, you're absolutely right. It is about taking personal responsibility. It's about taking responsibility for yourself and realizing that you are the creator of your life. And if you want your life to be better, if you want to do this, that, or the other, the only person that is holding you back is you. Oh my God, Naomi, I could talk to you for hours. I'm very, very conscious of your time. Do you have time for a couple more questions?
Yes, I do.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'm like you. I'm like, we could talk for hours.
I know. And do you know, my husband.
Can I just say something about what
Yes.
Again, your story resonates with me. I spent 3 decades blaming my mum's death, nobody supporting me after her death to heal from the trauma. I blamed chronic health conditions. I blamed school. I blamed the teachers that didn't support me. I blamed boyfriends that didn't give me the love that I needed, deserved, wanted. I blamed everything. And that is a place that most of us will feel comfortable, because we don't then have to look in a mirror and say, it's me.
Yeah.
And the moment I took personal responsibility, I take it every single day. There are still times that I divert, and I talk about this with, you know, neuroscience and neural programming. We're not going to become a robot. We're not going to become AI. We are still a human being, and there will still be times that I, probably like you, still go into that moment of, oh, this isn't fair. Why isn't it happening quick enough? Or wouldn't it be easier? And then I literally go like this with myself, and I'm like, who do you think you are? You're not the woman that blames anybody or anything else. You take the responsibility, you move forwards, you take accountability and ownership. And yeah, I'm on that page.
Oh, 100%. I love it so much. God, there are so many questions I wanted to ask you, but I know that we've been going for an hour now. And as I say, I want to be respectful of your time. But let me one thing I did want to talk to you about. In fact, 2 questions, if it's okay to ask you about.
Yeah.
One is, and I've heard you talk about, I've seen this on your Instagram, you've talked about how the relationship that we have with ourselves is the most important one. And also, you and I have messaged about the fact that you've said earlier, you've just turned 50. I'm about to turn 50 in January. And I'd love to talk a bit about midlife and embracing that, and why actually we don't all have to be going, oh my God, I'm going to turn 50. I just get like so many people I hear, oh God, it's so depressing, I'm going to be 50. I'm like, no, can we stop doing this? Can we fucking stop doing this? But first of all, talk to me about why the relationship we have with ourselves is, bar none, the most important one we'll ever have. And what that means.
Sense of self is the best way I think I can encapsulate it in kind of a sentence. It sounds so odd, but I know it'll make sense to you. I didn't know who I was until my mid-40s.
Yeah.
I was just living a life on autopilot, doing what I thought I should be doing, repeating the same crappy habits and behaviors that I was so flipping desperate to leave, but told myself I couldn't.
Yeah.
And what that did was that created low self-worth. It created low self-respect to myself. How I felt about myself mirrored how other people treated me.
Yeah.
Not always in a like, not like hitting me and abusing me and all that. But you said when I came on the podcast today, thank you for being early. And it's funny, like people used to disrespect my time. People used to disrespect the things that I do for them. And people wouldn't match what I did. I was a people pleaser, and I now know from all the work that I've done over the last few years that people pleasing, it's also referred to as fawning, and it actually is a trauma response. And for me, losing my mum as a teenager, all I wanted to then do was please everybody for validation, because it's how I got love, was people telling me I was a good girl, that I, was so thoughtful and so kind and so considerate. And I'm still those things. I am not some B1 TCH now. I'm still those things, but I'm them with boundaries, with self-respect. And the irony is I get treated so much better by everybody. My clients respect me. If I have had a situation where, a man has approached me or wanted to sort of take me out or whatever, my boundaries are so much clearer. I'm not chasing things. I'm not like, oh yeah, I need this for validation. It's a sense of self. And if you'd said to me even 6-7 years ago, I would have just gone, oh my God, that sounds like, that's so woo. What on earth are you talking about? And I think the best way to say is it's a feeling, not a word.
Right. Yeah.
It's literally the feelings of freedom and peace. And it's not because of being single and child free, because I was single and child free 10 years ago, and I did not feel freedom and peace. I felt chaos, lack of fulfillment, sad, lonely. I felt all those things in my late 30s and even my early 40s. You feel it in here.
Yeah.
That's all I can say, is that sense of self is a feeling.
Yeah, it's so true. I absolutely love that. Let's just talk briefly about aging.
Yeah.
Again, you're 50, I'm about to be 50. I feel better now than I ever have in my life in pretty much every area. My life is far from perfect. But I feel like you were just talking about the feeling. That's, the feeling. So talk to me a little bit about this, about kind of embracing life at this age and why it ain't over. Nowhere freaking near.
I feel like it's a mirror image. I feel like the words coming out of your mouth are the words that I've already got here in my brain. I agree. I feel better at 50 than I did at 30. And, for me as well, like my mum got chronically ill at 45 and died at 52. I think unconsciously for many, many years, I feared this 50 age bracket.
Right.
Because I saw 50 as being chronic health condition that actually led to premature death. So I think I probably feared aging. Also, a lot of my corporate career was in cosmetics, skincare. Let's do everything to keep looking younger. And I don't say this from any place of ego, but people say to me now, my God, you look younger at 50 than you did at 30. Because of how I'm looking after myself. It's not face creams. It's
inside out.
Chronological age and biological age that is reducing and reversing. It is definitely becoming at peace with who you are. So, you may or may not have seen that my big thing for my 50th, and, it's how we, I guess, connected because of both being featured in the Daily Telegraph. And I decided for my 50th to mark the woman that I've become, this last chapter of my life. I spent my 40th being surrounded by my girlfriends, going away for a boozy weekend. Don't get me wrong, had an amazing time, incredible. That's not the woman I am now. And that doesn't even really light me up anymore. And I had lots of friends like before my birthday going, have you sent any invites out? Haven't received anything yet. No, nothing coming just yet. Whilst I was like thinking, what am I going to do? And I decided, because again, the Naomi 10 years ago, 8 years ago, would never have gone on like a trip on her own. I was like worried about people judging me. Oh, how sad, she's on her own having dinner, or she's on her own traveling. So for my 50th, I booked an Airbnb in Florence, Italy. I flew to Florence on my own. I didn't have a big master plan. I literally went with the flow. I took myself to the opera one night on my own. I took myself out for a beautiful dinner. I had a photo shoot in Florence on my own. I hired a little Fiat 500, convertible, hired the guys to take me around Florence.
Oh, wow.
I did things that I would never, ever in a million years have done for fear of judgment, because I didn't have the confidence. I was such an anxious person that needed people around me, alcohol, all those things for validation to like kind of, I'm okay and I'm loved and everything else. And I just decided, F it. I'm not pleasing everybody around me. I'm doing something for me that shows me how far I've come on this journey. And, I talk about my 50th year and this decade now about being my golden era. And I feel like I just wanted to step into my golden era in a real place of, this is the benchmark. This is the message I'm giving to myself. And like you, aging is actually really, really exciting me.
Yeah, same.
Because if I look at my 40s, they've been the messiest, the most challenging, all those different things, but they've also been the most enriching years. And it's been the most amazing decade of my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm resonating with everything that you are saying. And I mean, I know that we could literally carry on talking for the next 3 hours. However, sadly, we cannot.
Make a Netflix series, Lucy.
I know. Oh my God. Oh, Naomi, before we wrap up, and I'm forcing myself to do this, but before we do wrap up, in fact, two more teeny weeny things. The last.
I know you said about being respectful of my time, and I'm very, very boundaried always. But do you know what? I'm loving this conversation, and there's probably something that somebody's going to hear that is exactly what they need to. So my time is your time.
Thanks, love. Right, I promise 2 more questions. The second one that I'm going to ask you is basically, I'm going to ask you if there is anything else that you want to share with the single women listening to this podcast. So that's the second one. The first one is, how does it feel to be single and child-free at the age of 50, kind of living life on your own terms?
So the first one, if I would say anything to any women, is trust your intuition. And some women will be going, what? How do I do that? Because I'm always like second guessing. And I was. Deep down, if you're already questioning something or somebody or a situation or a job, you've already got your answer. And something that I've embraced, and this is a tool that I use without even realizing it now. And you've already used the F word. And so, and I do very frequently use the F word. So I'm going to hear. For me, it's either a hell yes or it's a fuck no.
Yeah.
That helps me make any hard decision. Whether it's, should I do this in my business? Is this client the right fit for me? If there's any feeling in there of, I'm not sure, that's already my answer.
Yeah, so true.
And women do not tune into their intuition enough, because most of us have stepped into so much masculine energy. It doesn't matter whether we're in a relationship, not in a relationship. Modern day life has made so many women become masculated. Yeah. We're, breadwinners. We're striving for the next career opportunity. We're doing this next thing in our business. We're going for the next level, 6-figure business, then it's 7-figure business, then it's this, then it's that. We're always like striving, and that's very goal orientated, which is a lot of masculine energy. And this is, this, but just for anybody that's listening, that's going, either like, oh no, I'm female, I'm male, I'm whatever. This isn't about gender. This is about energy. And I realized that for decades, I was in a masculine energy, control, going for the next thing, going for the next thing. I'm still going for the next thing, growing, but I've stepped into a feminine energy, and I lean into my feminine energy, and it helps me to go with my gut and my intuition on anything that comes up in my life now.
Yeah.
Friendships, relationships, family, job, opportunities within my business. It all comes from there, from my intuition. So that would be my first thing. And what was your second question?
Basically, what are you? I can't remember actually.
Oh, yes.
It was,
how does it feel to be 50, child-free, single?
yeah, essentially, like, what are you loving the most about your single life without kids and living life on your own terms?
Gosh, I'm going to use the word freedom. And it's not the freedom that maybe a lot of people would think it is. Okay. Because I think some people think, well, of course you're free. Of course you're free. You haven't got the responsibilities of a partner, child, whatever. But, at 50, I'm also in, when I say the next phase of my life, my father is just about to turn 92 next week. He has dementia, Alzheimer's. I've been noticing it, but he's only been recently diagnosed. 2 years ago, I relocated him from 300 miles away at our family home in Devon to literally 5 roads away from me here in Sussex, because I could see what was coming. And there we go, talking about taking personal responsibility. That it's not my personal responsibility, so to say, but instead of running away from what was happening, I decided to take responsibility and face it.
Wow.
So I'm not free in a lot of ways, because whereas a few years ago, I would just be like, you know what, if I want to buy, maybe I'll go and buy a camper van. And, I love hiking. I love cold water swimming. I love adventures. I'm not free in that sense, because my dad living close and having dementia and Alzheimer's now, I am very conscious of, I have a responsibility that I didn't have before. However, I have a feeling of freedom and peace, that I am no longer in a place of, I should be here or I should be there. I believe that I am exactly where I need to be and where I'm designed to be at this moment in time. And I am embracing every second and minute of this messy, unpredictable, chaotic experience that's called life. I was always like, resisting and angry and frustrated and pissed off that things weren't going my way, or, my timeline wasn't the same as everybody else's and I was behind in life. And I think right now I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
Naomi Holbrook, I have absolutely loved this conversation. I'm so pleased that you reached out on Instagram. I really, really am. I'm so glad that we connected. This is an example of those connections that don't have to be in person.
Yes.
But this is a really good example of what we were saying about who you surround yourself with. It's conversations like these that remind people of possibility and opportunity, So I have absolutely loved talking to you. Before I finally let you go, having said that about half an hour ago, how can people follow you, find you, and work with you? Tell them everything that they need to know.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I have to say thank you. This has been just the most joyful conversation. It absolutely has. And like you said, and I guess here's one point as well. I remember when I read your article in the Telegraph, and I was like, I want to connect with you. And then I had that little moment of, we have that little bit of doubt of like, should I reach out? And again, the old me would have gone, oh no. And then it just take the moment. Like, if I can say one lasting thing here to your listeners and to any woman here who's like in that place, JFDI, just fucking do it. Because you never know what's going to come from it.
Yeah.
And then how to connect with me. Well, as we all are in this modern era, I'm on every freaking platform you can imagine. So Instagram, Naomi Holbrook Coach, LinkedIn, Naomi Holbrook, Facebook, Naomi Holbrook. But then I also have my website, which is the Unconventional Weight Loss Coach, and, can connect with me through there. But honestly, always say my DMs are open. I love hearing, a bit like you, I love hearing from if something has resonated, if something has landed, even if they don't necessarily want to get in contact with me to, to kind of find out more. I love hearing from people, just those impactful things. And like I said, I published my book in March, and funnily enough, last night I did a beautiful intimate book reading. And the things that women were saying that had light bulb moments, where like they've lived this life for 60 years, and something that they've read in that book or something that I've said has just made a switch flick in their brain, and something that they have lived with all those years to now make sense, or to now let them know that they can live a life that they choose to live.
Yeah, Naomi, I just realized I haven't even asked you about the book. Tell us the name again, and just tell us very briefly about.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. It's
Don't
I can
apologize.
I now I can see it behind you. So it's called,
Your weight is not the problem.
okay, Your Weight Is Not the Problem by Naomi Holbrook. And can people buy it anyway? I'll put it in the show
Yeah,
notes. You can get it on
absolutely.
Amazon or
So
wherever.
Amazon, Kindle, paperback, absolutely.
When did it come out?
4th of March.
Oh gosh. Okay. Do you know what? Should I tell you what's weird? That is the day that my dad died. That's the synchronicity right there. I mean, some people will be like, well, it's just a coincidence. But to me, I feel like that's the synchronicity.
And
That's
shall I
the
tell you something else
universe.
very, very quickly about the 4th of March, which only came to light last night when I was talking about the book with these ladies. I hadn't realized this. I wanted my book to be published on the 1st of March because that was my 50th birthday.
Oh gosh.
And the publisher said, we can't, it's a Saturday. You need to publish between a Tuesday and a Friday. And I was like, oh, I just wanted that. Like, I published my first book on my 50th. So I went, okay, we'll go for the Tuesday the 4th. It's absolutely fine. And I only realized last night when one of the ladies said to me, because I was like, I remember my turning point was 3 days after my 39th birthday, the 4th of March, 2016.
Isn't that so
2014. And she went, your book was published on the 4th of March. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't even realized that.
Oh my God, this is so weird. This is so weird because the 4th of March is obviously a very, very significant date in my life. My dad died on the 4th of March, 2004. So that date, the 4th of March is obviously a big date in my life. And how weird, or not weird, that it's also a big date in your life.
Absolutely.
Naomi, thank you for your time. And I feel bad. I've kept you way longer than I should have done. But thank you, thank you, thank you. It is awesome to connect with you, and sending you so much love.
Been an absolute pleasure.